Good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are today. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Uh, for a while now, we've been asked about just, I guess, some feedback in general around what research, like what we find out in the research that we do around presentation, helping people get like into a better space for selling games, and like things we found because we obviously deal with hundreds, dozens of, or research into dozens, hundreds of designers, and it's just some things we see. And this is something that I've talked to a couple of designers individually about, but I think that it's worth looking at a broader capacity. So I thought I'd make a general video for everybody here. The first disclaimer is here. I have not ever really spoken to this designer themselves. I was looking for something new for me. Got into Lovecraftian kind of phase recently with enjoying my first Call of the Cthulhu campaign. So yeah, I thought do some looking around, and I was on drive through, and I had a small. I wouldn't say it was a problem for me because of the kind of game player slash like research I like to do on the games that I'm buying, being a tabletop role player. But it really comes down to a big difference in how other people outside of like heavy research focused or people who really want to get know the knowledge of the game they're going to buy before they buy it. So we're looking at people who are going to be hunting around, looking around for games just on the site that they're on, which is kind of what the intention of Indieverse is, to be that place where people can come get all the info they need for their games. So they're buying and purchasing from you guys directly. Makes it a lot easier for like getting from the start of the journey of like, oh, this looks interesting, to actually purchasing. So that's what we really want to focus on today, is that journey and taking a customer through that journey on a web page, because ultimately that's the aim. Okay, so let's start by looking at this game here. Let me just change up the scene. Okay, so we have Brindlewood Bay. Obviously, they have a Kickstarter. Their parentheses in there, their Kickstarter edition. Intel is powered by the Apocalypse, which is a common game system that's being used. Got PDF version, all this cool. 168 pages. It's fairly decent piece of content. Now, the thing that gets me right away is, for a tabletop role playing game, there's a lot, buckets of stuff that goes into the ins and outs of how a system works, how you want to present the, I guess, the mechanics side of what someone can expect when they go to this type of game. Now, there are some tropes that come with Lovecraft in investigative pieces, probably some of the weirds and wonderfuls that you find in the horrors and monsters that you see in the classic Lovecraft works. But that's sort of the stuff that I think no matter what you're doing in Lovecraft inspired, they're almost kind of givens. So for me, when I was looking for this game, or looking at this game, I should say, I didn't get anything new. Anything that was like, oh, I could really take what they've given me here and see how I could make something unique out of this game. So it wasn't very inspiring outside of me being interested in Lovecraft. Now, that may seem harsh, and it is a little bit, because they've obviously put in the effort and time to put this piece together and present the game that they've made. The thing that I think makes a big difference is they've given me this much tiny amount of what the things are that they're trying to engage me with to buy their game. And if I don't choose to go outside of drive through, honestly, I wouldn't have got this game. I still haven't got it yet. I'm on the fence still. I haven't taken the time to look through and grab it. But when we look at it compared to what they gave us in their Kickstarter space, the difference is astounding. So for me, as a someone who's looking to buy, like I'm buying this, whether I'm backing it on Kickstarter, Create Found, or buying it from drive through, I'm going through the journey of like figuring out, is this the right product for me? When I look here, I get well, we can forget like Nephews in Peril. That's a whole separate product over here. So we're not gonna engage with that side of it, just because that would be a little bit unfair. So I get the same imagery that I get from the drive-through page, but what else I get right here is it's artistry. There's graphics. There's something here that shows me a little bit beyond what's on the cover. So for here, what I see the heavy stroke pencil. You can tell from like the shading in the cat, these darker areas, even just like where the colors cross over. I see the equivalent of like the Harry McClary, if anyone remembers the very, very old picture book from back in the day. But right before this, I've had Lovecraftian horror. So there's some contrasting there. So that right there is piquing my interest. They talk about themselves, they talk about why they're raising the funds, what their intention for this game is, and that sort of stuff I wouldn't expect to see in a retail because that's already been achieved. If I'm getting to drive through, I've already achieved these things. And someone who's looking at my covering and some of the information I've provided on drive through, they can figure that out. When I get further, though, I start looking at how the game breaks down, where the inspiration comes from, more artwork that, again, draws into that like heavy pencil stroke, crashing into gothic horror all at the same time. When I look at the texting, I see cozy activities, I see conditions, I see when I come in here, like older ladies rather than young, fit adventurers. I see clues, theorize, gold crown mysteries. Like these are all very provocative pieces that come to presenting like the best parts of this game. And I think that's the piece that really is the shortcoming of what they have in their retail spaces. They've found through playtesting, through development, through feedback, reviews, actual plays, people trying this game and figuring out what are the things that people are enjoying most about their experience with the game I've given them or presenting. And they don't take that gold experience, that gold pieces, the insights that they've gained to help sell their game when it's real, when it's there, when they've got stock on shelves, in bookshelves, ready to go. They're not taking those inspiring pieces that they used to fund this game to, keep selling it. I think that's a real detriment to the way in which people try and learn about games, because I think regardless of whether you're trying to get people to buy your game before it's made through Kickstarter, which essentially is what it is. Like you can call it backing, crowdfunding, pre-ordering. Essentially, you're asking someone to pay for a product, whether it's here now, whether it's here in 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, it's still asking someone for money for goods. And that means that you've still got to present why someone should care, why someone should want this, and what's the best way to present that, to give that to them. And games is really hard to do that with, because honestly, most of the time, and I may be wrong, it might just be me and the people I've interacted with, but most of the time when I go in to buy a game that I'm not going to do any looking or reading or find out anything more is when I've played it. I've had that experience, so I don't need the convincing of all of these keywords, all of this beautiful stuff, the artistic stuff, any of that. I've experienced that. But if I haven't, I need so much more to cross over that line, because for something especially like a TTRPG, I'm going to invest a lot of time in reading it. It was 100 and almost 70 pages. There's a lot of time that I'm going to invest in it. So I think that investing your time as a designer, someone who's looking to sell this game, into giving someone all the tools they need to, all the information they need to go and be like, yeah, this is the kind of game I want to play. And that's not just in the text and writing, but we keep going down. Like I see again more art shit like this here, gorgeous piece of artwork that goes in there. More in there. The anatomy of character sheets, massive in the tabletop role playing space. I have no idea many aspects of Persephone, but again, this is thought provoking. It's making me ask, what am I going to get into when I play this game? It leaves me with intrigue. It gives me something to be like inspired to go and learn more. Maybe to buy it so I can learn more. There you go. I've got 6 mysteries, 4 Sweet Week mysteries. Like there's so much here that's telling me what I get. There's little write-ups on what I get for each of these mysteries. There's little things here that get me like, ooh, that could be interesting. It provokes me as a player and also as a game master, someone who's running these games, to be inspired to go and find out more, so I can either use this in the system that you have, or what's commonly done in TTRPGs is you take someone's adventure from a different system and try and adapt it to something you're comfortable with, using it as an inspiration for creativity as well. But I don't get any of that when I go here. And that's, I think, a real, like, it's a shame. It really is, because like if I didn't go up here and grab this, copy, paste, and try and find out more information about something I was interested in, I'd never find this. And if that's something that, not everyone is doing because they're either in a rush or they just want to find something nice and quick, I think it's a shame that I have to do this sort of stuff to find out what's cool about this game. What do I want more than like the classic tropes of Lovecraft? And that can be something that we either judge someone for and being like, oh, well, research is something you should do before you buy products. But making that as accessible and easy as possible is something that, why I think it's so important is because it's the work you've already done. Like, this work is already done. It's right here. And this is done well before I think about going to drive-through. So what I'm saying, I guess, is like, there's all this work done and it works. It's effective. Why are they not using it again? Like, I can keep scrolling for minutes here. I've got articles, I've got podcasts, I've got videos. You probably have to ask again for permission to use these in the capacity on the retail space, but I'm sure that people here who have got videos, podcasts, they're happy for the exposure being promoted in your space so that other people will find their video on your game so they can do their research, and then they might also grow. So it's a community-based building thing for these creators, podcast creators, article writers as well. They get across a great message that gets someone across to buy a game. They might go back again to find out, oh, what else does this creator, this podcaster, this video maker, this article writer, what else do they promote? And a lot of the time, these places are doing indie games, which means that you're fueling more indie games to get picked up, bought, people who create really like heartfelt, passionate projects around these products to get up into the algorithm, so that it's not just the people at the top running like the massive channels that are going to get all the eyeballs. Like, it builds up that community of smaller independent spaces. So I think it's something that we really need to start looking at and thinking about, because in all honesty, all it's doing is making more work as well. Because if I wanted to implement this sort of style over here and I wanted it to be something new and impressive, I have to start again. I have to take all of the work that I've done to get here, and it just goes out the window, and I'm trying to reinvent the wheel. And often that's not really required. There can be a case of people thinking that needing to keep it new and fresh is important, especially in the creative field. Being stagnant or keeping the same thing can be seen as, I guess, a bit of a negative. But I want to think of it from the perspective of a buyer. I think when I'm going to buy something, I am going to have my first time experience with what you've put together to present your game, and as is the next person and the next person and the next person. If I've done 30 iterations of what I'm presenting as a designer, a consumer's not going to know that. So still presenting that best case or best core, hooks, takes, whatever things you're using to draw people in to buy this game or even be interested enough to scroll down the page as far as you've got all your information, is exceptionally important. So I hope people will take this to, I guess, a little bit to the advice side of things. It's something that we're trying to, wanting to look at starting to do some more of, is like, take the things that we're learning, that we like and we see successes in, whether it's through Indieverse directly, whether we're researching designers, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and pass on that information. Because I completely understand that while obviously it's something you look at for your own creative process, there's not always the time for you between everything else that you do to find these things, or to, I guess, look at them in such a critical light. And we have that capacity. It's important to what we do, as someone who looks to support the indie games past this point of crowdfunding. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you take a little bit of insight from what we've seen here today. I hope it doesn't seem coming off as a we know best or I know best or anything like that. I think it's just a really important piece to talk about when it comes to like the sales side of creating a goods, I guess, a good pathway for a consumer to go from, oh, this is interesting, to, oh, I see where this is going. And then it keeps going down that path of like, yes, yes, yes. So yeah. And that comes obviously different with different people and how they do their purchasing, how they're buying, researching games. It's all very different. But I think giving them everything that they could possibly need only puts you at an advantage compared to someone who's not going to do that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Hope you're having a lovely day. We'll try and do some more of this stuff as I get ideas for like ways in which to help you present your games. We'll be putting more of this stuff out. But yeah, thanks so much again for having a look, and we'll see you in the Indieverse.